If you could collaborate and create with any Beatle, who would it be and why?
I had to say Paul McCartney. I had to say Paul. I mean, I wish all of them. Yeah, that'd be the dream. Now that would be the dream. That
Right.
would be the dream. But Sir Paul that would be amazing.
Youngsters from Liverpool, England. The Beatles have held this title for 8 years.
My model of business is the Beatles. You know, they were four very talented guys.
Welcome back to the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast. I'm your host, Jack Lawless. I'd like to welcome a very special guest on the podcast today. He was featured on Kanye West's Grammy Award-winning album, The College Dropout, and is a Peabody, Clio, and NAACP Image Award-winning poet and artist. It's my pleasure to introduce Jay Ivy. Growing up in Chicago, Jay Ivy was inspired by hip-hop music, poetry, and of course the Beatles, especially John Lennon's song Imagine. Jay Ivy started his poetry career locally and quickly blew up in popularity. Russell Simmons invited him on Def Poetry Jam, and soon after, Kanye West invited Jay Ivy to be on his song Never Let Me Down, which also features the legendary rapper Jay-Z. The College Dropout went on to win a Grammy Award for Best Rap Album. He recorded and filmed a concert titled Catching Dreams live at Fort Knox, Chicago, which was nominated for the 2022 Grammy Awards in the Best Spoken Word category, alongside Levar Burton, Don Cheadle, Dave Chappelle, and Barack Obama. But before he was even able to celebrate, Jay Ivy took up the roles of lead writer, voice director, and cast member of Netflix's new film, Jeen-yuhs, A Kanye Trilogy, directed by Coodie and Chike. Jeen-yuhs received a nomination for Outstanding Documentary Series in the 2022 Emmys, but actually lost to the Beatles' new documentary series, Get Back. I am thrilled to have Jay Ivy on the podcast, so let's hop right into the interview. Jay Ivy, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. How are you?
Man, I'm blessed, man. Great to hear. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's an honor to have you on. So, to give our listeners some background, let's go all the way back. Can you tell us about how you grew up and what kind of music you listened to as a kid?
Yeah, man. So I'm from Chicago, Chi-Town, and I grew up in a changing, I guess this you could say the season of our environment was starting to change. I'm a 70s baby, so my early adolescent years, teenage years were during the 80s and 90s in Chicago. It was a time where y- we grew up in very loving neighborhoods, but the neighborhood that love in our neighborhoods was starting to become more and more interrupted by the crack era and gangs and but for us, especially those coming up, music was vital, and it was our peace and our calm in the storm. And I'm a hip hop baby, so I grew up on Slick Rick the Ruler and Run DMC and Big Daddy Kane and KRS One, Public Enemy and Salt and Pepper and Roxanne Shante and Tribe Called Quest. And so I grew up on. I was fortunate enough to be born in an era where hip hop was starting to really make a name for itself, and it was speaking for us, for those who felt like we didn't have a voice in music, as far as like the youth.
Absolutely. And all great music choices, by the way. Now, do you remember the first time you heard the Beatles?
Yeah, I mean the Beatles music. I feel like I don't remember the first time. I just feel like it was always a part of my life. Like it was always you always heard their hits and those moving moving songs, whether it was on the radio or in movies, and it was always very iconic music that just really spoke to your soul and your spirit. So I can't remember the first time, but it just feel like, they've always been a part of my life.
Now, when did you decide to pursue poetry professionally?
Well, professionally came later on. I was first introduced to poetry in high school. I had a teacher named Ms. Argue, and what I learned is you're not gonna argue with somebody named Ms. Argue.
Right.
so so Ms. Argue, she had us write a poem for homework, and again, I wasn't into poetry. I was real good at writing notes to girls. This is it sounds old, but this is before the internet. This is before. It really was though. It
Right.
really was before the internet. You had, if you wanted to communicate with somebody, they had to call them or write them a note. And Ms. Argue, she had us write a poem, and again, hip hop. Those are my poets. Those are my storytellers. But when it came to poetry, I just wasn't into poetry. At least I thought I wasn't. So I go home, I write this poem, and come to class the next day, and I'm expecting to turn in this what I thought was this silly little poem about the clouds, and it was called "It Once Was a Cloud," and about the cloud. The game we all play where the cloud changes forms. You see this in it, you see that. So I'm expecting to turn it in, and Ms. Argue makes everybody read their poem in front of the class. And I was very shy kid, very broken in a lot of ways. I lacked confidence. So the idea of speaking in front of a class was not something I was looking to do. So I was terrified in the moment, but got through it. After class, Ms. Argue pulls me to the side and she gave me an A on the poem. And I really wasn't getting I wasn't getting any A's. It would be some C's, and she said, "You have a nice speaking voice." And she's like, "I have a talent show coming up. I want you to do this talent show." I'm like, "No, Ms. Argue." This is when the shy kid stepped up and was like, "No, not trying to do that." And then, so I didn't do the show. A few weeks goes by. She approaches me again. She said, "You know what? Last time I asked you to do a show, you faked me out. I got another show coming up. This time I'm not asking you. You have to do it." So she makes me do a show. My first time ever on stage, as scared and terrified as I was, I received a standing ovation. And I was like, "Ms. Argue, when's the next show? When's the next show? When's the next show?" Because I mean, in that moment, my life just literally changed. I went from this kid who felt invisible, who felt unseen and unheard, to looking at a room full of people standing up clapping for me, and it just, I was like, "Oh wow, they do see me, they do hear me," and I wanted to explore that feeling some more. So I just really, it was just me falling in love with performing, falling in love with storytelling, using my voice, and then that just naturally transformed into a career and a profession. You know.
Wow, that's a great story. And now that you're on a professional level, I'm wondering which poets inspire your poetry and writing style the most.
The most, I mean, I love the Last Poets and Gil Scott Heron and Amiri Baraka. A lot of MCs in hip hop, I still consider them poets as well. A lot of folks who are doing their thing right now, like Sonny Patterson and Ursula Rucker, and Mari Hartwig, Amir Suleiman, Jessica Care Moore, Lemon Anderson. Just, I'm just a huge fan of folks who can not only paint pictures with words, but really just spark something in your spirit, and just give you hope, and motivate you to want to get back on your creativity, and do it some more and do it better. Figure out how to transform lives with the stories we have to tell.
Are there any lyrics or songs by any of the Beatles that stand out to you, kind of like the poetry you were just describing?
Imagine, that's absolutely one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, the lyrics. I'm trying to think of the words. I'm trying to think of the words, but yeah, I was just listening to Imagine like maybe like a week ago too. And then we were there at the Emmys with them as well. So we were nominated alongside the Beatles for in the Emmys for best documentary. So I had a pleasure working on Genius and the Beatles beat us, man. The Beatles beat us. There's a lyric for you. There's a lyric for you.
Speaking of Genius, I mean, what a fantastic, fantastic documentary. And it was released right around the time of the Beatles' three-part Get Back documentary series, which rewrote the narrative of their breakup. What was it like for you to write the narration of this documentary about Kanye's life? And how is telling a story through a documentary different from telling a story through poetry?
I think they're I think they're similar in a lot of ways. I mean, when you break down a story, it's beginning, middle, end. Now that format may be short, a few minutes, or that format may be a few hours, depending on what you're working on. But for me, like to go from writing poetry or writing songs or even writing for different commercials or promotions to pivoting and writing for a film, I took it was the same approach. Like, okay, where are we starting and where are we going? And for me, a lot of times is where are we going is the first thing. Like, where do we want to end up? And like, so for Genius, it was very important to understand where we're landing. Like I look at storytelling, or like writing a poem, a song, or a movie. I look at it like taking a road trip. And with a road trip, it's like, okay, like where are we going? Like that's the first question. To me, the first question is where are we going? I'm like, okay, where if we paint the picture and I'm in Chicago and I'm deciding to take a trip to Miami. Like, okay, now I know I'm going to Miami. Now it's a matter, now I'm backtracking. Okay, how am I getting there? Who am I going with? When am I going? What am I taking? What do I plan to do while I get there? Then it's all the variables of those things that we can't predict, because life just, you can have a plan all day long, but once you start moving in it, it always takes its own shape and form. So that was while we were working on the documentary. And big shout out to Coodie and Chike, our brothers who directed it and produced it. Coodie is who folks heard narrating the film, and I wrote his narration and voice directed as well. But a lot of our conversations were, okay, we know, well, we had an idea where we were going, because of the thing with Kanye is he's steadily writing the story. So it was like, okay, we think we're going here. And then something in Kanye's life are happening, like, okay, we're going here. It's like, oh, we thought we was going here, but now we're going here. So it was constantly writing to the point where we had just like, okay, that's it. We just gotta stop right here. This is the end point. But in the midst of that, we were having a lot of conversations, reminiscing a lot about those times. I was fortunate enough to be around for that whole experience from Chicago, the Chicago scene in the 90s. It was a Chicago Renaissance happening where all these artists were kind of bucking the system as far as we were always taught, go to school and get a good job. And we came up and were like, yeah, we got these dreams, you know, about school and that good job. We got some dreams over here, and it was and those dreams were like screaming at our spirits, and folks just couldn't help but pursue it. Like, even if you went to school for a little, most people I knew went to school for a little bit. Like me, I was only in college for a year and a half, but it was this calling. It was just on me. So to be around for that Chicago Renaissance amongst all these artists, from MCs to singers to producers to comedians to dancers and actors, and then to a couple years later find myself in the making of the College Dropout and Kanye's rise, all that. It was just amazing to see. So while working on this, we were fortunate because I was the fly on the wall with a pen in my hand. I just happened, a writer just happened to be in the midst of all this. So when it came time to work on it, it was going back to the basics of beginning, middle, end. But then there were a lot of great details that I was able to add to it because I was present.
So, what was it like for you during your first time in the studio when you started working on the College Dropout with Kanye?
Yeah, man, it was amazing, man. It was a really dope experience because like I met Kanye briefly in Chicago for my first time in the studio with him. I was in Nashville and I went to Philly to do a show. And when I was in Philly, me and Tari Teray, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, we went and did the show. She's singing all over the College Dropout too. You see her in Jeen-yuhs as well. She has a new album out called Catching Feelings. Check it out. But I co-wrote it. She's amazing. She's the best. But when we went, if you watch Jeen-yuhs, you see us walk into Kanye's apartment in Newark, and we walk in, and we literally there like minutes, and Coodie and old school Ice Green they were like, oh man, this Jay Ivy do the poetry, and Ice Green was like, yeah, he was on Def Poetry, da da da, and this is Tari Teray, and she got this in her voice, she got a strong voice, and Kanye was like, oh word, you sing? She's like, yeah. He's like, man, I got this song. So we literally walking into his apartment off the road, and within 5 minutes, she on the mic singing, and I think that was my first time seeing somebody work as fast as Kanye works. It wasn't, okay, yeah, we'll do something later on. It was, no, we here right now. Let's do this. And so from that experience to to go from his apartment studio to his home studio to the actual studio, where I had the opportunity to record on the song "Never Let Me Down," which features not only Kanye West, and not to mention Tari Teray and John Legend and Tracy Spencer are singing on the hook, but it also featured the legendary, one of the all-time greatest, a lot of people's favorite, the great Jay-Z. So here I am finding myself on a record with Kanye and Jay-Z. And that experience was, it was just incredible, man. Coodie called me about the record. I was in New York and Coodie just got to LA. He called me saying that Kanye had this song with him and Jay-Z on it. He wanted to put a poet on it. He told Kanye, he's like, man, you need to put Jay Ivy on this. And he calls and tell me this. I'm like, man, stop playing. I was like Coodie, yeah, that ain't funny, man. Like a record with Kanye and Jay-Z, like, come on, like for real, He's like, no, for real, you need to get out here tomorrow if you can. So he telling me the words over the phone. I really couldn't hear the music. He was playing the song, and I really couldn't hear the words. So he started telling me what Jay-Z was saying, what Kanye was saying. He was like, man, Jay, you need to get out here tomorrow if you can. I was like, man, I'm gonna find a way. I hung up that phone. I started writing. I prayed to God. I was like, God, please give me one. And I wrote this poem. I called Coodie back in 10 minutes, like, listen to this. And I spit the poem from over the phone. He's like, oh man, Jay, it's crazy. Hold on. So he go in another room, the music loud, people loud. And then he was like, Jay, I'm put you on speakerphone, spit the poem again. So I did the poem like I done it a million times already. Like if I on the highest cliff on the highest riff and you slipped off the side and clutched onto your life and my grip, I will never ever let you down. And then when I finished, the whole room erupted. Everybody like, oh man. I'm in Brooklyn, broke by myself. Like, what's up? What's good? Like, what's up? Somebody tell me something. So then I hear Kanye, man, Jay, spit it again. Spit it again. I did the poem for like a half hour. Poem was a minute long. So I did it over and over and over again. And then Coodie finally got back on the phone. He was like, Jay, guess what? I'm like, what? He was like, Kanye flying you out here tomorrow. I said, I found my way. So it was just a testament to how fast like Kanye, like, no, we need him here right now. So, because he's all about making sure you capture the energy. So even when I fly, they call me up, what's your government name? We booking your flight, we sending the card, and I fly from New York to LA, that 6 hours, whatever it was, land, car picked me up. Fellas, they were all at a comedy club. It was our buddy D-Ray Davis. He hosts at the Improv on Mondays. So the car take me to the Improv. Then D-Ray put me on stage. I performed there. Then we pile back into the car and we go to the studio. Mind you, it's December, so I'm got winter coat and suitcase. So we get to the studio. We there like 10 minutes. I barely took my coat off. And Kanye was like, you ready? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. and flew all this. Yeah. Let me just get some water. And then I get in the booth, and mind you, I'm doing a record with Jay-Z and Kanye. I'm on 10,000. My energy is like through the roof. So I'm screaming, if I want the highest clip, for the highest rip, I'm going in. And then when I finished, Kanye, he was like, man, Jay, that was good. He's like, bring it down a little bit. And do it again. I was like, all right, cool. So I did it again, boom. I was on the highest clip, on the highest, boom, 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 boom. And then when I finished, I was like, all right, I'm warmed up now. Yeah, I was like, yeah, let me do it again. He's like, that's it. I was like, nah, man, let me do it one more time. He's like, Jay, that's it. I was like, Kanye, man, I can do it better than that, bro. Let me do it one more time. And he was like, nah, Jay, that's it. That's the one. Come on in. And that was it. I came back an hour later. I was like, oh man, you know what? I had a chance to sit and chill and get some water.
Let me catch your breath.
Yeah. Let me, he's like, Jay, that's it, man. He was like, that's the one. And that's what ended up being what the world has heard. And we just, man, I think it was about 2 months ago, we just got news that the single Never Let Me Down went gold after 20 years later, but it just went gold. Of course, the College Dropout was 4 times platinum and won a Grammy. And so it was just incredible to be a part of it. And then for us to hop into Genius and relive it all was just like, oh my God, like this is incredible.
Well, congratulations on all of those accolades. I mean, I gotta say, your verse on Never Let Me Down is actually what pushed me through my first time benching 225 at the gym in college.
Whoa. I was listening to your verse, man.
Get out of here.
Pushed me through
yeah. I'll never ever let Yeah, I love it.
So I definitely appreciate your work on a more personal level.
I'm about to go to the gym. I'm going to the gym, man. You can hire me, man. Thank you.
So what was your favorite part about making this documentary?
Oh man, well, I mean, there were a lot of favorites, but I think the one that just pops into mind is just the fact that we've been telling these stories. I've been telling these stories for 20 years. Like this, when I recorded that particular moment with Never Let Me Down was December of 2002. Like it's literally 20 years ago. So, you tell people these stories, like even that same night, this is a side story, but it wasn't in the documentary. But that same night, like we listened to Never Let Me Down over and over again. And then Kanye was like, man, you heard this singer named John Stevens? I was like, yeah, I've been hearing about him in New York. Because again, we're in LA at Record Plant in Hollywood. And so Kanye was like, man, let me play you the songs. He plays this song by John Stevens, and the song's incredible. I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It was soulful. It just reminded me of some of my folks, played. And then an hour later, John Stevens comes in the studio. So I'm like, oh, what's up, bro? I was like, man, I'm Jay Ivy. I'm a poet from Chicago. I heard your music. Like, it sounded like that music from the old school. It sounded like that music my folks used to listen to back in the day. I was like, dog, I was like, you sound like one of the legends. I was like, you a legend. I said, matter of fact, that's what I'm gonna call you from now on. I'm gonna call you the legend, right? So I start calling him John the Legend. So it's just me and him talking. So a couple of days later, we're in the lounge of the studio, and then it's like maybe like 10, 12 of us in the lounge. Kanye, Tari Teray, Coodie, in walks John Stevens. Everybody shouting him out like, John Stevens in the building. John Stevens in the house. What up, John Stevens? I was like, John Legend. And everybody looked at me. They looked back at him. They was like, oh man. And Kanye was the main one. That's it. You John Legend from now on.
Wow.
So that's how John Stevens got the name John Legend. And it was moments like that. It was like magical moments. A lot of like the stars aligning and these very synchronizing moments that just kept happening. And I think to relive that in the film, like to go and see those moments, it was like, wow, like, man, people finally get to see what we've been talking about all this time. And mind you, like people only saw a glimpse of what of everything Coodie shot, because Coodie shot everything. He had over 500 hours of footage. And the
Wow.
film, the total was a 3-part, 3 acts, and total it was like 4.5 hours total. So out of 500 hours, we, you know, crammed it down to 4.5. And that's an addition, and the 4.5 had other footage that Coodie didn't shoot. So there was a lot of footage to go through. So we were just, I remember watching scenes and like, oh man, this is crazy. Looking at something like, damn, this is crazy. Oh, y'all were doing, man, it's crazy. Y'all had a whole choir and Kanye was singing they were doing Through the Wire and da-da-da. And then I see myself in the back. I'm like, like what? Like, wait, what? There I go sitting right there. And it's this moments like you didn't, you just don't remember them. And because it was so long ago, so to relive it was just incredible. And then for people to see it, and for people, my favorite part is for people to see it and just to see the reaction that we've been getting. And the hope, the prayer, the wish was that when people watch it, that they would feel love, they would feel like the power of belief and the power of faith and be inspired by it. And that's the reactions that we've been getting for the past however many months. It came out in February, and it's been that. It's just been just a wave, a tidal wave of love being returned. And that has been the absolute best part. Absolute best part.
What is it about artists such as yourself, Kanye West, and the Beatles that allows you all to stay relevant in culture while your art invites that kind of love and appreciation response from audiences decades after the work has been released?
Well, I mean, I have a theory. For me, I believe that as creatives, our superpower is the ability to listen. As simple as it sounds, our superpower is listening. And and with that, well, as we're creating or as we're moving through life and experiencing these different things, we listen to our hearts, we listen to family and friends, we listen to the ancestors and angels and God, and we listen to what's going on in the world. We listen, we absorb, we're sponges. We're just always absorbing what's happening. And then our job or our gift is the ability to translate that in with whatever gift we've been blessed with. So for me, I absorb, I sponge, I listen, and I poetically translate what I hear. Others do it through film. Others do it through music. I mean, I do music as well. I have an album coming out too, by the way. September 30th, unshameless plug. The Poet Who Sat by the Door, available on all streaming services. Please check it out. Submitted it for a Grammy, so it'll be up for Grammy consideration. Please just listen. No pun intended, but listen. But even in creating the album, that was a big emphasis is just really just paying attention. Just like for me, like when I write, I quiet myself and I listen. And I'm working on just capturing everything as fast as I possibly can. And I feel like that's what most creatives do. And I think because of that, it keeps folks like ourselves and the Beatles and Kanye and Jay and Beyonce and Tari Ture, it keeps folks relevant because you're always not only are you listening, but you're listening with care and concern and with joy and with it's just a certain energy. Like it's like the world is giving you so much and you want to give back. You want to pay it forward. So you being inspired by all these things, it's like, okay, let me take this and here's a thank you for what all the world has given me and all the loved ones and folks that are around. Like, thank you for pouring into me. And this is what I was able to do with it. And I hope that this can be a token, a beautiful token of my appreciation.
If you could collaborate and create with any Beatle, who would it be and why?
I had to say Paul McCartney. I had to say Paul. I mean, I wish all of them. Yeah, that'd be the dream. Now that would be the dream. That
Right.
would be the dream. But Sir Paul, that would be amazing. I have one of the things that I really appreciate. I've learned to appreciate is learning that my voice itself is an instrument, and I love the tonality and what I'm able to do with it. And like I love pairing my voice up with others, like just seeing like what other instruments I can collaborate with. So like to hear some poetry with Sir Paul, Sir Paul, you know what I mean? If you're listening, if you're out there, I'm here. It'll be magical. I promise. It'll be historic. It would be amazing. That would be amazing. Oh, man, let me figure that out. You got a number?
Yeah.
Man, come on, man. Like, come on, man. Let's do this, man. Like, it's long overdue, man. Let's just make it happen. All right. I love him a message.
Oh, sweet. When he comes on the show, I'll definitely mention that and hopefully bring about that collaboration.
I love it.
So Jay Ivy, what are you up to now? Are you involved in any projects? I know you said you got an album coming out soon.
Yeah, that's been the big focus is my album, The Poet Set by the Door. I'm actually on the final day of mixes today. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Big shout out to Tari Teray. Big shout out to Greg Majors, who's our engineer, AKA G-Ball. So we've been cranking away for the past couple months. I had an incredible opportunity earlier this year where for the past 6 years I've been working with the Recording Academy. So I'm a trustee with the national trustee with the Recording Academy, and before that I was president of the Chicago chapter. So there's 12 chapters that make up the Recording Academy. And in the history of the Grammys or the Recording Academy, I was the first poet to ever hold a president's seat. And so after that I became trustee. So for the first time, someone from the poetry community had a voice in the room. So I've been working with the Academy the past 6 years on the spoken word category, because the category, which I had the incredible honor of being nominated in last year. So I have an album out called Catching Dreams, and it was nominated for a Grammy in the Best Spoken Word category alongside Don Cheadle, Levar Burton, Dave Chappelle, Mir Suleiman, Barack Obama, and Jay Ivy. And while it was just absolutely incredible to be nominated alongside these incredible men, one of the things I went to the Academy with was the fact that the spoken word category includes poetry, audiobooks, and storytelling. I'm like, it's amazing you want to award audiobooks, but that's not the art form of spoken word. So I was working with them for the past 6 years to get them to split the category. And I became a conduit or the liaison between the Recording Academy and the poetry community. Hence the title of my album, The Poet Who Sat by the Door, because I was getting information and I'm like, man, I've been doing this almost 30 years and I didn't know this. So if I don't know this, chances are y'all might not know this. So I started sharing information with the poetry community. And it was cracking this joke, man. I'm like, the poet who sat by the door, you know, I'm like, like what you say? Hey, y'all. But because of that, because I was able to share the information, we were able to inspire poets to make sure that they were getting their albums done, releasing their albums. And then this year I went to the Academy and wrote a proposal and a new definition, and I submitted it and it passed. So this year, for the first time, there'll be the best audiobook narration and storytelling category, but there will also be the best spoken word poetry album category. So for the first time in history, 5 poets will be nominated. Poets will bring home Grammys, And I think it's going to shine a huge light and put a lot of eyes and ears on the beautiful work that poets do all around the world. So after doing all that work, I was like, oh, wait a minute, let me get an album done. Because I want to throw my name in the hat. I want to have a chance. So,
Of course.
that's been the big focus. That album, like I said, I helped co-write and co-produce Tari Chira's album, Catching Feelings. I'm about to do a new campaign with Bullet. I just been named when does this come out?
This will be coming out at the end of September.
So September 19th, they'll be announcing, or they announced that I've been named. Ebony named me to be on their Power 100 list. So it's a lot of amazing things happening, man. It's just a blessing. And I gotta send a big shout out to everybody who's on the album, from Lettucey, the Music Soul Child, to Sonny Patterson, to Tari Chira, to BJ the Chicago Kid, Ursula Rucker, Mari Hardwick, Yao, Sir the Baptist, Slick Rick the Ruler, and John Legend are all on the album. And it's truly a beautiful work of art. I'm really proud of this one. So please, everybody, check it out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's on all streaming services?
And that's on all streaming. That's on all. I keep forgetting that part. Let me start over.
Awesome. Well, everyone, be on the lookout for this album as soon as it comes out. The link is going to be in this podcast description, so all you have to do is just click it, and it'll take you right to the album.
Yeah. I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate that.
Jay Ivy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and bringing your energy and fantastic stories. It's been an honor speaking with you, man.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for having me on. Big shout out to the Beatles and all the Beatle lovers all around the world. If we were going to lose to someone, I don't even want to say lose. It was a win. It was a win because we were alongside of them. So to share in that moment, to be alongside one of the greatest to ever do it, is just incredible. So big shout out to the Beatles and everybody who loves and keep their music thriving and going. We need good music. We need hearts to be healed, and their music heals a lot of hearts. So big shout out to y'all. And man, hit me up when y'all get a minute. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, J_IVY, the letter J_IVY.
Youngsters from Liverpool, England. The Beatles have held this title for 8 years.
My model of business is the Beatles. They were 4 very talented guys.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Here, There, and Everywhere podcast. A huge thank you to Jay Ivy for coming on the show. You can check out his album that's dropping on September 30th and watch the documentary Geen-yuhs on Netflix. The links to everything are in the podcast description. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Beatles Earth. And as always, I will see